From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for the debate.
Welcome back, friends. Niranjan and I continue. And in this part of the conversation, our focus is essentially on the diplomatic victories notched by Prime Minister Modi during his 4 days of foreign visit to Japan and China both. The big ones, of course, coming in from China because it was a multilateral engagement. Prime Minister engaged or met with, interacted with a dozen and more world leaders and could drive home the point on terror, on the issue of balance of trade with China, on the issue of some double standards practiced by nations he did not name. We can name, it was about China, and of course made sure by way of optics that Shehbaz Sharif, who represents Pakistan by half, I say half because the other half was represented by General Asim Munir at the SCO summit. And he, of course, is the more powerful half of Pakistan. But Prime Minister Modi, by way of optics, made sure that in the pictures that beamed out of Tianjin, Shehbaz Sharif looked like, what shall I say, Niranjan, a sidekick, an attendant, a maid, what? I mean, it was a very poor picture for the Pakistanis to behold the manner in which Shehbaz Sharif conducted himself. And obviously it was because the arc lights were firmly on the troika, which was of Prime Minister Modi, President Xi Jinping, and President Putin. And I think that's one big diplomatic takeaway and a win for us that in our larger objective of multi-alignment and facing the headwinds that we are, unfortunately, from the United States under Trump administration, India did project a picture of control and calm, and I think that's a big one, and that's our focus in this conversation. Niranjan.
I think the word you were looking for is dud. He came
for Pakistan, yes.
Pakistan. The word is dud for Pakistan because Shehbaz Sharif got a very, very, very sorry figure. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the story. From a few weeks back where China refused to condemn the Pahalgam terror attack, and we refused to sign the agreement. Rajnath Singh returned from Russia refusing to sign the agreement. Two, in China, a mention of the Pahalgam terror attack and global condemnation. We've come a long way. And here's why. What happened in Tianjin is a victory for India.
Prime Minister Modi's visit to China has changed the Eurasian dynamics. Even at the SCO, India did not miss the mark to prioritizing its national interest.
हाल ही में हमने पहलगाम में टेररिज्म का बहुत ही घिनौना रूप देखा। इस दुख की घड़ी में जो मित्र देश हमारे साथ खड़े रहे, मैं उनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
So much for a narrative war. Prime Minister Modi showed the world when it comes to the big table, it's India that does the talking.
आतंकवाद पर कोई भी डबल स्टैंडर्ड स्वीकार्य नहीं होंगे। हमें मिलकर आतंकवाद का हर रंग में, हर रूप में विरोध करना होगा। ये मानवता के प्रति हमारा दायित्व है।
India has been fighting very closely. Prime Minister Modi, during his bilateral with President Xi, made it very clear that cross-border terrorism cannot be brushed under the carpet. In fact, that was taken extremely seriously. In the opening remarks that were made by President Xi of the 25th meeting of the heads of state, he did make a mention. Terrorism, extremism and separatism. Then comes the joint declaration. The joint declaration not only condemns Pahalgam massacre, you have all the nations coming together and calling out this cross-border terrorism that has taken place. And that is undoubtedly a big victory for India.
It's not just with words. The Prime Minister also redefined India's Asian posture with some reiteration.
परस्पर विश्वास, सम्मान और संवेदनशीलता के आधार पर हम अपने संबंधों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं।
Some bold statements.
भारत और रूस हमेशा कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चले हैं। हमारा करीबी सहयोग न केवल दोनों देशों के लोगों के लिए बल्कि वैश्विक शांति, स्थिरता और समृद्धि के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है।
Some key meetings with key figures in the neighborhood. India was ready to extend the arm of friendship to friends and unafraid to show the shoulder to the ones who did not deserve the attention at all. In return, all India got was praise from its partners.
И сегодня хорошая возможность обсудить основные задачи дальнейшего развития многопланового двустороннего сотрудничества в различных областях.
Despite all the strong-arm tactics of the West, Prime Minister Modi's meeting with President Putin sent a strong signal of world's energy exports, expressing satisfaction of the sustained growth of bilateral ties in the economic, financial and energy sectors. But that's not all. The Prime Minister must have stunned the world geopolitics when he held nearly a 50-minute long off-the-record discussion with President Putin en route to the bilateral meeting venue.
During this entire meeting, they were alone. There were no translators. What we do not know is the content of the conversation that took place between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin. And perhaps that is going to be in the realm of speculation. But one thing is very clear. It was an unusual format that was adopted by both the leaders, breaking all kinds of protocols. It's very unusual that world leaders would break this kind of a protocol and decide to be inside their car and have a chat session. What was the session all about? We do not know.
Terror.
भारत ने टेरर फाइनेंसिंग के खिलाफ आवाज उठाई।
Dragon.
Partners who enable each other's success and to have the dragon and the elephant dance together.
Tariff.
SCO, multilateralism और इंक्लूसिव वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर का मार्गदर्शक बन सकता है।
Peace.
यूक्रेन में चल रहे संघर्ष के विषय में हम लगातार चर्चा करते रहे हैं। हाल में किए गए शांति के सभी प्रयासों का हम स्वागत करते हैं।
When India talks, the world listens. When India walks, the world watches.
Okay, on top of 9 p.m, we have a fantastic panel. Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat, joining us here on the debate. Good evening, Ambassador. Tatiana Kukareva, senior journalist, Russia. Welcome back. She's live from Moscow. I have David K. Johnston, who's an American journalist, live from New York. Victor Gao is Vice President, Center for China and Globalization, should be joining us soon. He's live from Singapore. Versus Adel Nazarian, who's a foreign policy analyst, a researcher, and international senior journalist, live from Washington, D.C. Welcome. Anand Ahuja, who's a Republican co-founder, Indian Americans for Trump, joining us live from New York. I have my colleague Shavan Sen joining us live from Tianjin. He's been reporting for the last 3 days non-stop. And I have Fakhar Yousafzai. Fakhar, I want to start with you, Fakhar. Let's show the pictures of what happened today. Fakhar, take a look at this video. I'm going to play that video full frame of what happened at the SCO summit. Shehbaz Sharif was there. I think there were two defining images, Abhishek. One defining image was when Prime Minister Modi held both Xi Jinping and Putin by their hand. And there was one video, if I can play that video of them, both Putin and Prime Minister Modi walking to take their positions. Here's what happened, right?
Even before this, yeah.
Yeah. This was just maybe after that. That's the video. I want to get, Shravan on that, because I wanted to show this video to Fakhar, because I wanted to get a, understanding from Fakhar Yusufzai, who's from Pakistan, on how Pakistani media is looking at this. Because I've been given to understand from Abhishek, that, from Shravan, that Shehbaz Sharif didn't get a bilateral. Shehbaz Sharif and Pakistan didn't get much of a mention in the Chinese media. In fact, even Myanmar got an audience with Xi Jinping. Fakhar, you see that video? You see that Shehbaz Sharif just standing there. Yesterday, he jumped out of line, tried to shake Putin's hands. Today, he just stood there watching, right? It's not looking good. If it's all about optics, right? They say it's all about optics, not good optics, Fakhar. Shravan, if you can tell me what you think went wrong for Pakistan there. You've been reporting not good optics for Shehbaz Sharif. It's been a dud of an SCO summit. You can tell Fakhar that.
Well, I believe President Xi as well as President Putin is aware that the real power basically lies with General Asim Munir, and that is the reason why perhaps Shehbaz Sharif was left alone. And let me just tell you the sequence of events. Something that I'm saying is based out of facts, and that's exactly what I'm going to do over the next couple of minutes, just to tell our audience there back home that this is what really happened. On 30th of August, when Shehbaz Sharif landed along with the Deputy Prime Minister, of course, along with the Foreign Minister, it turned out that there was no audience that was given by President Xi. In fact, you've had Cambodian Prime Minister and Myanmar acting president, everyone actually going ahead and meeting Nepalese Prime Minister, having an audience with President Xi. Surprisingly, there was no audience that was given to Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. In fact, the delegation, we are given to understand, was trying to seek a meeting with Chinese Premier Li Qiang. Now, whether that has happened or not, we do not know. Having said that, there are two defining images, as you rightly pointed out. One was at the dinner that was hosted by President Xi. He was basically right at the left corner. In fact, after the photo op, suddenly you would have seen Pakistani Prime Minister jumping out like a schoolboy and perhaps, trying to get a handshake with President Putin, which did actually happen. But then he thought that let me go a step ahead and let me then tap the back of President Putin, which of course didn't really go down well because there was absolutely no response coming in from President Putin. Now, cut to today, what really happened? You had Prime Minister Modi being flanked by Chinese President Xi Jinping on the one side, the other was of Russian President Vladimir Putin. And let's not forget the big scoop that Republic TV got today was the 50-minute chat, the personal chat that Prime Minister had with President Putin inside the U.S.S. In fact, it is one of the most unusual events to have actually taken place, when you have both the leaders actually sitting in the car and having the talk while the delegation was waiting for them inside the hotel. And thereafter too, breaking all protocol, another 50 minutes inside the negotiating room. Now, juxtapose this with the so-called the Chinese and Pakistanis, where the Pakistanis have been, perhaps labeling the Chinese as their all-weather friend. So what really happened to the all-weather friend? Where was that meeting? That meeting was completely gone out of the window. That's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. I think so there's too much of focus back home that we give to Pakistan, because it seems in, world forums like these, Pakistan is not taken seriously at all. And as far as President Trump is concerned, perhaps it's driven by other forces, by other need. But when it comes to real work and real men at work, then it seems that Pakistani Prime Minister is essentially seen as a toddler lurching around at one corner.
Before I get in Fakhar, I want to get Ambassador Vora. Ambassador Vora, have we got all the headlines we wanted? Pahalgam mentioned. We also sat on the table while staring back at Shehbaz. We got a mention of Pahalgam in the Tianjin declaration. And our Prime Minister makes a mention of sovereignty, subtle mention, obviously was a reference to China, right? So we've got all the headlines we wanted. Ambassador Vora, if you've been a part of our broadcast today, how would you summarize India's victory? Okay, you want to say something, Shravan? Yes, you want to say something?
I said in the presence of countries like Malaysia, Maldives, and several other countries that Pakistan has always thought is their friend. Reality is this, that we have been extremely successful in influencing each of these countries to realize that they perhaps would make the gravest mistake of standing with Pakistan.
Ambassador Vora.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Always a pleasure and a delight to be with you and all these wonderful people on your panel. I'm quite inadequate when I look at them. And your correspondent in Tianjin, he's brilliant. Now, may I say something, sir? On a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate India's performance as 15. 1 to 10, 10 being the maximum, I'd rate it at 15. Let me tell you why, and I've done 8 such summits in the course of my diplomatic career. I've been 52 years in diplomacy and I'm 74 years young, still very good looking. Nevertheless, let me just tell you what it was. In these 8 summits that I did, there was SCO, there was BRICS, there was one G7 and 1 or 2 NAMs. Now, the final document is prepared well in advance. It's not that the leaders sit down there across the table and say, okay, this. Then it's circulated to all the participants, those who are invited, those who are coming. And they're told, look, would you like to give your comments? Do you think this is all right, etc.? And then we all give our comments. It's up to the host country to prepare the final draft. And it's not unknown, sir, that we all give our comments. A final draft is prepared, but what is actually presented for signature, and this is, I believe, what happened with our defense minister, that it's different from what we had agreed. Now, some people try to be very smart. And then, of course, it boomerangs on them. And we did not sign that document. Now, I do believe that China internalized this, that if India doesn't sign this document, it's not worth the paper that it's written on. So you heard that the document was prepared. As far as your neighbor is concerned, and hear me out on this, sir, they would also have got a copy of the draft in which Pahalgam was mentioned. This was mentioned, that was mentioned. They had 2 options. Either don't come, or if you come, don't sign. They don't have the guts not to sign. They would have been isolated totally. And therefore, they came, they stood like sheepish schoolboys, waiting to see what's going to happen. One of the things which was very interesting, you talked about it a little while ago, the 50-minute conversation between Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi. Oh, by the way, the name Narendra for our foreign guests, it means someone who's always successful, a leader of the people. And Vladimir also means someone who is always successful, who leads the world. It's I don't know if it's coincidence, but the 2 great leaders of the world, Vladimir and Narendra, were together. Now, this 50-minute conversation, ma'am, I've seen this in the course of my career. When the Prime Minister of India receives people and he wants a private conversation and ambassadors like me are booted out, he'll take them to the garden where there's no bugging. You can be certain that no one is listening. And this was in President Putin's car. Of course, the fellows in Moscow were listening in, but that's what happened. When we take them in India in our car, the Prime Minister's car, again they talk, well, we're listening in. We all know that, man. There's nothing, I'm not sharing a state secret. We are listening into what happened, but then we are the only ones. No one else can listen into that conversation. So these talks, these dialogues don't take place in a room, which are very easy to bug. They take place outside. So therefore, sir, my assessment, if you, since you've asked, I'll give it to you straight. Pakistan has been embarrassed beyond redemption. They should not have come. Maybe saved some face. But they came, they were slighted. In fact, it was a diplomatic slap. And the star of the show, sir, please forgive me for boasting a little bit, the star of the show in Tianjin, which means gateway to heaven, the word Tianjin. The star was a man called Narendra Bhai Damodar Das Modi.
All right. Just checking with Fakhar, if Mr. Shehbaz Sharif signed the Tianjin Declaration, can you confirm whether it's been reported in Pakistan if he was a signatory to the Tianjin Declaration? Mr. Fakhar Yousafzai. Your audio is muted, Mr. Yousafzai. It's muted. It's muted, yeah.
Fakhar, can you unmute yourself, please?
You're muted yourself. You're muted yourself. Okay, does somebody else want to take that while we fix that line? Should we pass that to...
He's getting the audio.
He's getting the audio, but we are not able to get his audio. Okay, your mic is muted from your end. Okay, we'll fix that. But Tatiana, you want to respond to that? Not good optics for Pakistan. You want to take that question?
Come on.
I can make a comment.
I would not be able to completely agree with the honorary previous speaker. Pakistan is a member of the SCO, so it has to appear.
Tatiana, just to take away your discomfort, in the right royal ignore that Shehbaz Sharif got, our Prime Minister and your President were equal partners. I mean, they were walking and talking and ignoring Shehbaz Sharif,
Well, look, our President and Mr. Modi have had a really good relationship for years now, and even we've seen, our media were also very excited about the limousine talk. I believe Mr. Peskov referred to it as the walls from the motherland that were kind of, we say that the native walls help. When a team plays at home, for instance, the walls help because you play at home. So the walls helped, but also that the conversation was just so comfortable that they didn't want to change locations. But of course, we can read into it whatever we want. And here I completely agree with my predecessor. We can very well read into that comment from the president's press secretary. But I believe, both leaders commented on the meeting between them, said it was a very successful one. And Mr. Modi has made quite a firm statement in terms of condemning terrorism. All the countries chose to condemn terrorism. That was a very specific point in the joint agenda.
Yeah. Okay, Victor, on this, would you defend your friend? All-weather friend, or you sort of agree with the general sentiment on the panel that Shehbaz Sharif sort of proved himself to be a dud?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, let's congratulate the very successful conclusion of the SCO summit. And this is a victory for all the members of the SCO, including India and including Russia, China, and all the others, and allow me to emphasize, also including Pakistan. I think the fact that SCO summit has produced a declaration means that all the members have signed on to this declaration, with no exception. India has signed on to that, and Pakistan has signed on to that, because if any member decides not to sign on, then there will be no joint declaration. So I think let's congratulate all the participating members for their collective wisdom and courage in signing up onto this joint declaration, which is a major international document in the world of today, reflecting the collective will of all the participating members, including India and Pakistan, to do the right thing in the coming years. Now, you talked about anti-terrorism. Please keep in mind, SCO was started with a focus on anti-terrorism. And over the past quarter of a century, anti-terrorism has always remained as a dominant theme for SCO and for all member states in SCO. I would recommend, going forward, whenever there is a terrorist attack involving any member state, we need to go to the SCO framework to get to the bottom of the situation, to compare notes between governments, for example, to make sure that terrorism of any color, shape, and form happening anywhere among our member states will be condemned by the SCO as an organization, and we will have a mechanism to deal with terrorism of any kind, so that they do not play such dangerous things against, especially innocent people in our countries. And I would say, if there is any terrorism in Kashmir, in India, in Pakistan, or in China, all members should condemn such terrorist attacks. Allow me to emphasize, China has lost quite a few of our nationals because of the terrorist attacks inside Pakistan, especially in Balochistan. Every time when there is a loss of life of Chinese nationals inside Pakistan, we mourn the losses and we call on the Pakistani government to get justice done. And I think it should be the same thing, same way going forward. Whenever there is terrorist attacks happening anywhere among our member states. So my hope, my dream is that SCO will be the most effective framework to deal with terrorism of any kinds, anywhere within our membership going forward.
Interesting that you mentioned Balochistan. I know, Victor, I knew you would mention Balochistan. I knew you were itching to mention Balochistan, but I just want to remind our viewers a little bit about, give them a little bit of context. See, what is happening in Balochistan is, the people of Balochistan are Pakistani citizens and they are fighting the Pakistani state because they feel the Pakistani state has stolen their resources. But the difference is in a Pahalgam attack, the terrorists are trained in Pakistan. They are Pakistani citizens who come into India and carry out the attack. There's a difference between Balochistan and Pahalgam that perhaps gets lost sometimes, right? In a summit like this. But I'll take that question to Adele. Adele is giving us the American view. Of course, Trump is not happy with what's going on. Trump administration is not happy with what's going on. But a lot of Americans are actually happy with what's going on. They're saying at least Trump will fall in line now. Adele, what's your view on the big takeaways from the SCO summit?
Niranjan, just can I just
okay, you can add on to that. There. You can add on to that and Adele will come in. Yes.
Well, in fact, just a while back, we've had a statement, a kind of a reference that has been made, and this is the report that has been published by certain Western media. They are saying Narendra Modi, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping held hands in China. The leaders aimed to signal as an alternative to U.S. global leadership. I think so, the message has been sent across to the West, and particularly this is exactly what China and Russia have also been aiming at, because it seems that yesterday when the conversation took place between President Xi and President Putin, it was also about Alaska. And the fact of the matter is that you've had President Putin today saying that I acknowledge the role that has been played by India and China, and I'm hoping that the United States of America follows suit.
Yeah. Adele, you can take that.
In response to that, thank you so much for that update. I want to say welcome to the table. The United States has been fighting against radical Islamist terror and terrorism in all of its forms for decades. So I think it's lovely that now the SCO members are also joining, getting in line and also doing that. I don't think this is a competition against the U.S., although they think it is. I think what it's doing is when we have more countries, more organizations coming together collectively, nations are organizations after all, they're businesses at the end of the day, but we have the U.S. and these now, allied partners, in some allied, some not officially in the SCO, who are fighting for the same cause, right? And that's to eradicate the globe of these toxic, cancerous elements that are destroying civilization. Terrorism in all its forms must be condemned. And so, I have to say, I'm glad to see more members that are really on, following suit and fighting terror. I think it's very refreshing.
Yeah, I just want to make a small mention, Abhishek, and I'm handing it over to you. You can go to Fakhar. Fakhar, can you hear us? Can you hear us now? Just checking if you have. Oh, great. Can you say something? Can you unmute yourself? I'm unable to hear you, my friend. Okay, I'll get you back. I'm sorry. I apologize for this. I'll get you back. I apologize for this. I'm getting you back. There's some issue in getting your audio through. Okay, but the point I wanted to make to Adele, she made a very interesting point. She said, welcome to the table. We've been opposed to all forms of terror. That's great, Adele. That's fantastic. Wow. But Asim Munir, you invited him a few days back to White House. You sat across the table with him. You struck deals with him. You're going to have a great crypto, huge, big, beautiful deal with Pakistan, right? 60% by a company owned by Donald Trump's family. And then you have the Pakistani government also involved in this. And let me give you some more news in case you have missed it in the last 2 months. Pakistani generals, Pakistani army officers completed the last strikes for the terrorists we eliminated in Operation Sindoor. They were trained by the Pakistan army. So you can speak about fighting all forms of terror, but I hate to break it to you that it is your friends in Pakistan who are training these terrorists. You sanction them on one end, and then you are in bed with these terrorists. But that's something I wanted to make because I didn't want you to get away with that. David K wants to come in. David,
I have to. I'll rebut later.
Yeah, you can come in later. David.
Well, the SCO was started largely on this issue of terrorism, and one person's terrorism is another person's freedom fighter. It depends on your perspective. I think the most important thing we've just seen is the early stages of undoing American hegemony over world trade and the dominance of the U.S. in setting the rules of world trade, financial transactions, and perhaps even the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. And the reason for this, of course, is that the United States has a president who is a con artist. He's appallingly ignorant. I've known him and spent many hours with him over the last nearly 40 years that I've studied him and written 3 best-selling books about him. He doesn't know anything. He has a degree in economics, but he didn't learn anything about economics. Oops. He promotes the discredited idea of mercantilism. There's a fixed amount of wealth in the world, and if you have money, that means we don't have it, so we have to figure out how to take it from you. And here you've seen Xi, Modi, and Putin basically declare, yeah, there's a new order here in the world. Now, this is the very early stages of this. This can all fall apart. But that's, I believe, the significance of this meeting. And by the way, those rides in the limos, those were designed to humiliate Donald Trump, who made a big deal out of giving Putin a ride in a limousine in Alaska. The choice of Tianjin to hold this meeting, the 6th largest seaport in China, was also part of an effort to humiliate the incompetent leader in Washington by these other 3 leaders who are all strategic thinkers and have significant smart staff serving them as opposed to a bunch of hard-drinking television show hosts.
Okay, so, we began by this conversation by focusing on the takeaways, the wins for Indian diplomacy. But it seems we are actually, again, veering down to what's with Donald Trump, right, Niranjan?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's coming down to that. What's wrong with Donald Trump? I mean, it's not just India that's really riled. It's the Chinese, obviously, because they are competing. Russians, of course, because ultimately the American deep state is on the side of the West. And the West, because Donald Trump is not backing them in Ukraine enough, as much as they would want. So effectively, who's America befriending, unfortunately, at this moment, except for General Asim Munir? Yeah. Fakar, if you're there, I mean, I don't know what's happened. Have the Chinese hacked your phone or what? Fakar, are you getting us? I really want to ask you this question.
Is he there? I think we're trying to fix the line.
There.
You can take that to Anand Ahuja. He was really upset with what David K said. I mean,
I want to come to
Ahuja really upset.
Before that, Anand Ahuja. Anand Ahuja, except for General Asim Munir, who's today friend of the United States?
First of all, I don't understand why we are discussing Asim Munir or why we are even discussing Pakistan. India being the largest democracy and the 4th largest economy is comparing itself today with Asim Munir and with Pakistan. Are we going to that low level to compare ourselves with these countries or with these people?
I mean, we are not comparing. It's Donald Trump who really wanted a photo op between General Asim Munir and Prime Minister Modi, and for God's sake, that's not going to happen. And I think Donald Trump really misread the situation, and for which he's paying. The kind of anti-America sentiment for the first time I'm seeing in my life on the ground in India. It was never like that before.
Sir, first of all, you have to understand the circumstances in which Asim Munir was invited for a lunch at White House. At that time, Israel-Iran war was going on. Initially, Pakistan's position was that I will supply nukes to Iran to destroy Israel. Donald Trump invited Asim Munir and made Pakistan to change its position in Iraq-Israel war. The same very Pakistan then started supporting Israel and they said that we are not going to support Iran. So you have to understand the geopolitical particular situation at that particular time. Inviting Asam Munir for one lunch does not mean India has been ignored by United States.
Ignored?
Also, I see lot of things have been discussed here from objectives point of view, what happened in SCO. What is being revealed in SCO is beautiful, but what is being concealed is vital. And I tell you what is being concealed. The concealed is China is seeing an opportunity for India to be in its relationship with USA so that India sooner or later acknowledges China's hegemony in South Asia. China, we are forgetting that it is China who has been training Pakistani terrorists against India. We are forgetting that it's China's intelligence against India that is being provided by China to Pakistan.
Can come on this?
So, on paper, it's very good to say that we are on board, we are going to handle terrorism. But the question is, who is feeding these terrorists? Who is giving training to these terrorists? Who is providing these arms and ammunition to terrorists? Pakistani terrorists that came to
I think his point is to Fakhar. Fakhar is finally... Fakhar, can you hear us?
Yeah.
You've heard everything, my friend.
Make a point.
You've heard everything, my friend. You want to respond to each one of them, you can.
No. Listen. Actually, there was a problem from your side, I think so. And now your staff is make it fix. Sure. I was listening to you all.
Can you confirm whether Shehbaz Sharif signed the Tianjin declaration which condemned the Pahalgam terror attack, of which Pakistani terrorists were sent to India to carry out the attack? Can you confirm whether Shehbaz Sharif signed that declaration? Fakhar.
Yeah. Of course, that was a joint declaration about the Pahalgam attack as well as the Jafar Express attack in Balochistan, Pakistan. Last time when your defense minister was there, what was the problem there? That the Jafar Express incident was there in a joint statement, but the Pahalgam was not condemning that time, right? This time, both the incident condemned by all the members, not only the Pahalgam attack, but you are claiming this, that Pakistan attacked in Pahalgam, but you didn't give any proof and you didn't investigate that matter.
Can you look at that visual? Can you tell me what happened to Shehbaz Sharif?
That incident happened on 22nd on April and today is the 1st September. What you did for that incident? I think so. Pakistani Prime Minister was there and he representing Pakistan. What he said? He said about the terrorism in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as in Balochistan. Our Chinese fellow also talk about that the Chinese engineers and the Chinese people attacking in different areas of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as in Balochistan. Pakistani Prime Minister said about that Pakistan is not supporting any type of terrorism in this region, which is come from Afghanistan or which is come
Pakistan
from some other countries.
Supporting any terrorism in this region.
Yeah.
Just a second. Are you sure, Fakhar? Because just yesterday, your ambassador or charge d'affaires in Kabul, I'm not talking about Jammu and Kashmir, not Delhi, in Kabul was summoned. A demarche was issued by Taliban government of Afghanistan that please stop fomenting trouble in our territory. And it was a charge against your military, not even your Lashkar-e-Taiba.
Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. I'm my last 10 years journalism on those areas. Of course, they demarche or ambassador because Pakistan made the 2 drone attacks in Khost as well as in Nangarhar. For that, they demarched our ambassador in Kabul. And our foreign office confirmed that they demarched the Pakistani ambassador over there because Pakistan military security forces was following the TTP and other terrorists which is living on the Pak-Afghan border. And they are attacking the Pakistan military as well as the other people in those areas.
Okay.
Of course, Pakistan is following that.
No, but I think you missed the point, Fakhar. The point was about Shehbaz Sharif getting that snub. You see that visual? How is the Pakistani media reporting this visual? Look at that. Look at that visual of...
Listen. Listen.
Yesterday he jumped the line.
I will respond on that.
Yesterday he jumped at Putin. He lunged at Putin.
Listen.
Almost trying to
course,
like that and put
of
his hand
course, I have talked about that when he was follow the Vladimir Putin. I think so. That was not a good gesture as a Prime Minister of Pakistan. He didn't do that. Of course, it's okay. But right now in this show, there are, I think so, we are 8 or 10 people in this show. But all the people are discussing what they are discussing Pakistan. You said in the start that
the key word is terror.
India is the winner of the
key word is terror, my friend. The key word is terror.
Listen to me.
We are also discussing Donald Trump,
actually. Pakistan about the terrorism. This is
I have an
Pakistan
idea.
claiming the terrorism.
If we're talking about snubs, right? Why don't we redirect our attention and topic of conversation to the seeming snub that Peter Navarro took?
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's another logic I want to talk about. David, I want to get you in on this logic, right? So there is this guy called Peter Navarro, okay? So this guy called Peter Navarro makes a statement this morning. I'm going to pull that out, right? Big, beautiful American statement. He says, I don't understand why Modi is getting in bed with Putin and Xi Jinping when he's the biggest democracy in the world. I would just simply say to the Indian people, please understand what's going on here. You've got Brahmins, Peter Navarro, who doesn't know his facts, right? He says, you've got Brahmins profiteering at the expense of the Indian people. We need to stop that. And then he uses this word laundromat, okay? David,
Can I just add to it?
Yeah,
Adele, if
Peter Navarro.
Listen.
Yeah.
If Trump meets Putin, it's the beast. If Modi meets Putin, it's what? Dictatorship.
Dictatorship. Right? No, the laundromat. I wanted to mention the laundromat. You mentioned the laundromat, right? So here's a circle, David. I want David to respond to this. Abhishek, laundromat. So his allegation is that we buy oil from Russia. We're funding the war machine, right?
Adil wants to respond to
this. Okay. I'll just complete my question. Either of you can take that. So by that logic, yes, we buy oil from Russia. And you know who buys oil from us? Ukraine. Largest buyer of diesel from India is Ukraine. Who funds Ukraine? America, right?
Well,
so my dear friends from America, you are the laundromat. You are funding Ukraine. You are buying oil from us. We are buying oil from Russia. Eventually, you are the eventual beneficiaries. David.
Okay, so you directed the question to me. If the rest of you would hold on for a moment since I was asked to respond. Peter Navarro, who professor, is a far-out fringe character who has no basic understanding of the world. His trade theories are nonsense. He's been showed to be a fraudster. He repeatedly cited the work of someone else who doesn't exist, and it turned out it was an anagram of his own name. So Peter Navarro has Donald Trump's ear, and he's important for the reason that he has Donald Trump's ear, but he's part of this administration full of drunks, former heroin addicts, incompetent people who Donald Trump surrounds himself with as a career criminal, the third generation head of a 4-generation white-collar crime family. So I wouldn't waste time about Peter Navarro's nutty views, except to understand that they play a role in the utter lack of sophisticated knowledge of Donald Trump.
Yeah. Adele?
Allow me to make a point.
Coming to you, Victor. Adele wants to make a point. Adele.
Yeah, allow me to make a point. For Peter Navarro, let me say one thing. For the record, Peter, let India decide whom India wants to sleep with. That decision should not be America's decision. That decision should not be Peter Navarro's decision. That's very simple. Let India decide which country is its enemy and which country is its friend. Now, another point I want to make is that the United States, and in particular President Trump, seem to be worried that they do not have enough enemies in the world. Whereas China is always worried that if we do not have enough friends. So that's the difference between China and the United States. We want to have as many friends as possible, and Washington seems very, very worried if they cannot find enough enemies in the world. That's a big difference. Now, the other thing is that
I think you're overstating that.
The United States keeps buying uranium from Russia. So what right does the United States have to call on India, don't buy oil from Russia? That decision, again, is
you have such a corrupting influence on the world. You know, you are creating problems for India, you're creating problems for Donald Trump, you're creating problems for Russia, you're creating problems for Ukraine, you're creating problems for everyone.
Abhishek,
I'm
somebody
not
has to
creating any
have
problem except for those who are against the peace.
We take what we can get. It can't just be the U.S. having the corrupting influence on the world. We are entitled to our share.
I mean, that was in jest.
Come on.
That was in jest. But the point is, I think apart from India, and obviously, you know, I always say, Tatanya, that we are not in Russia-China camp. We are looking at our own policy of multi-alignment, which is essentially,
and
you can call it non-aligned movement 2.0.
We don't have a Russia-China camp.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I was coming to the point that maybe
there's an India camp, and this is the beauty of this situation. And Adele, big thank you for starting this mess with mentioning Navarro. Just a lot of love again coming from,
thank you. Right back at you. So here's the thing. I have to make something clear here for the audience, right? Because a lot of Indians, Hindus from India are in America. You know, I have to make this clear as to addressing Peter Navarro's comments. It leads to a much more nefarious underpinning, right? There are organizations in the U.S. like Equality Labs that are supported by George Soros and the Soros Network that are receive backing from Islamists, from Khalistani diaspora groups, and they've been running a vicious campaign against Indian Americans and in left-leaning states like New Jersey, California, and Washington State. The fact that Peter Navarro has picked up these lines referring to the Brahmins as such from these organizations tells us the power of fake news and propaganda, and that it can infect
No. It's not an innocent comment. It's not fake news. I'll tell you what. It's not as innocent as you think it is. He has made a very, very carefully calculated statement trying to use the caste divide, what the opposition likes to speak here. Ma'am, it's a very carefully crafted statement.
I know, so here's what I have to do. He has been infiltrated by misinformation campaigns by these groups that I mentioned. What it does is it shows that private conversations at policymaker circles
No. It's not as innocent. You know, this is deliberate. Yes, Anand Ahuja, are you going to defend Navarro?
Look, I'm not defending him.
I'm asking Anand. Anand Ahuja is defending him. He's a Republican.
The irony of his comment is this,
let me make a comment. Let me make a comment. First of all, you have played only half of Peter Navarro's statement. You have missed that part. Hold on, where he's saying Modi is a great leader. Modi is a great leader, and then he's saying, when he says mentioning profiting, what he meant to say is that elite class in India is making profit on this purchase of cheap oil.
No, 1 minute, because he's factually wrong, sir. Please don't come on Indian television in prime time and repeat that lie. Don't say it's not about a class. What do you mean? Is the Prime Minister of India Brahmin? Is the President of India Brahmin?
It's not about the class.
Are the biggest industrialists who are buying oil from Russia Brahmins?
Because
are the people running the biggest oil companies Brahmins? What are you talking about?
Common man in India is not getting benefit
Sir,
of that
1 minute.
oil.
Just for your information, our Prime Minister is from a backward caste. He's not a Brahmin. So please, don't even try and defend Navarro on Indian television, sir. Please don't do that. Please don't. He's the most hated figure in India right now. He's the most hated figure in India right now. I would say he's more hated than Trump. Navarro is more hated than Trump in India right now. So please don't even remotely try and defend him, Mr. Ahuja.
Common man in India is not getting benefit of cheap oil from Russia. It's only rich elite people.
Then why is okay? 1 minute. Then why is Europe? Why don't you tell Ukraine to stop buying diesel from India?
No.
Why don't you tell? Why don't you, sir? Why don't you tell Ukraine to stop buying diesel from India? They're the biggest purchasers of diesel from India.
So
why are you buying diesel from India?
Peter Navarro said Modi is a great leader. Modi is a great leader. That part is you are missing.
But you cannot say Brahmin, sir. That's a very, very carefully. I want to bring in Ambassador Vora because I think you're missing. A lot of people in India are furious. In fact, someone sent me a message at 5 a.m. this morning with that comment. And Ambassador Vora was live with us at 6 in the morning. First question that was asked to him, what do you think of this Navarro guy? Because, he's gone crazy.
He hasn't.
Ambassador Vora. I want to go to Ambassador Vora. Listen to a diplomat's perspective, sir. Nobody speaks that language.
Certainly,
Sir, he's not speaking as Peter Navarro, a private citizen. He's the trade advisor. For God's sake, there has to be some seriousness. Ambassador Vora.
Sir, you're absolutely right. We can't dismiss this as Mr. Bizarro, sorry, not Bizarro, whatever his name is, the rantings of a demented fellow. But let me just put it to you that talking about the Boston Brahmins in New England were the people who funded universities like Harvard, etc., the very rich elite. It played a great role in America. And when he says that the Brahmins in India, and he's referring to the big companies in India, he's referring to Adani, he's referring to the Ambani, they're not Brahmins. The fellow has no understanding of India whatsoever. May I suggest to him, sir, and I'd be delighted if our young lady from the United States conveys this to Mr. Bizarro. It is better to keep your mouth shut and be thought a fool than to open it and remove all doubt.
So if I may add on to this, what I want to say is that even if we give Mr. Navarro the benefit of the doubt in the situation, which we don't, I still urge him heavily to engage with American Hindu diaspora members, like organizations like Hindu Action, that actually can help him get his facts straight. Of course, his comment was totally off, but what it shows is the deep infiltration by these left-wing groups like Equality Labs and the Soros-backed elements.
Yes.
That's one part of this film called Cascade, The Untold Story. This specifically is, this Cascade, The Untold Story is a chronicle of facts. It's a documentary of record with no speculative elements. It talks about how the California Civil Rights Department, the CRD, they are...
David wants to come in. Adele, what are you saying, Adele? Come on. Come on. David.
This idea that Peter Navarro is somehow...
Don't be rough on her. She's such a fine young lady. Don't be harsh on her.
David.
The idea that Peter Navarro is listening to anybody like George Soros is just absurd on its face. That it's typical of the kind of disinformation that supporters of Trump rely on. Ignore facts, make things up, make indefensible claims. And that's what you're seeing with Peter Navarro, who's a nutcase. I mean, his own fellow faculty members were shocked that he ever got hired at the University of California, Irvine, as a professor. And as I said earlier, Peter Navarro is significant only because Donald Trump listens to his nutty ideas. The man is a fraud top to bottom. He doesn't listen to George Soros. He is simply badly informed.
I'm gonna correct the record. I never said he was listening to George Soros. I said elements like Islamist, Khalistani-backed elements that have been influenced by Soros and left-wing like Equality Labs have influenced policy circles that have his ear. That's why I want to say.
But I thought Trump is fighting Soros, right? Isn't it?
Hindus are being targeted.
Wasn't Trump fighting Soros last I checked?
And they're becoming...
One second. What am I missing? Yeah. What am I missing? I thought Abhishek, Trump was about to arrest Soros. That was the news last few days. So now...
Well, it's all jumbled up, garbled up. You know, it's been some show of strength and power projection by the Chinese, Niranjan. Yeah. India has significant takeaways. President Putin is, of course, on a roll from Alaska to Tianjin, and he's meeting all the world leaders. There is nothing called Russian isolation, and Trump has a lot of credit to him for achieving that, and Tatania is very thankful to Trump, as much as we are not. Fucker is... what about Fucker? I mean, Fucker, are you going to vote out Shehbaz Sharif for the kind of...
yeah, why do you need Shehbaz Sharif? Asim Munir is
there, yeah.
is your de facto...
And we have run out of time.
Yeah, we've run out of time. But fun debate. I think India is the standout headline from the SEO. And I got news for you, Adele. Please tell Mr. Donald Trump and the American administration our purchases of oil from Russia is going to increase in September. That's something that we've just learned. So all the best. And Ukraine will continue to buy diesel from us. So it's a win-win both ways. Thank you very much. Good debate. Until tomorrow, Arnab Goswami is back tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. So he will be live 8 to 10 p.m. on The Debate. Thanks for watching.